The Ewingar Fire Brigade has 13 new recruits who today are being put through their paces.
We've been here 2.5 years and we've burnt out 3 times so far. So we thought we'd better do something to, if not learn, to save ourselves and help the community.
Our place got burnt out quite significantly, so it just seemed like the sensible thing to do.
You need it, especially with the way that last fire season was and the way it is looking like it's going to continue ongoing, so yeah.
With a normal fire season predicted for the next few months, these fledgling firefighters hope they'll get the time they need to prepare. It's a very different outlook to the one faced by this brigade during the nightmare bushfire season of 2019.
It was a really scary time for a lot of people, and we'd had the fire come through this part of Ewingar and we thought we had it under control. And then a month passed and it flared up again. And then we got it under control again. And then another month passed, and then that's when the monster came.
A fire emergency is unfolding in the state's north, where it's too late to leave for some residents.
It's a huge fire, over 66,000 hectares in size, and listed as out of control. The fire has crossed the Ewingar Road and is burning.
When I got to the turn off to my road, I can't even explain the smoke that was there. I've never seen anything like it. It was so frightening. And the way it looked was that nothing up there would survive, including my dad, my neighbours and the houses.
The Long Gully fire claimed 2 lives, destroyed 44 homes and burned through more than 74,000 hectares of bush and farmland.
Quite a few people lost houses, and if they didn't lose houses, they lost fencing, cattle, sheds, machinery, and a lot of people weren't insured.
There's the saw.
Literally lost everything and didn't know how they would pick up again.
I was almost finished building my dream home. It was a log cabin that I built out of railway sleepers and timber that I cut out of the bush. Not one single sleeper out of the 270 odd railway sleepers, not one bit left. Became one giant big oven inside. So yeah, just being so close is the hard thing.
This was a 4-bay shed. Used to keep a lot of stuff in here. There was a water tank that fed the house, but obviously we can't use that now. It's just shocking.
When the fire roared through Paul's property, he was off helping neighbours, not knowing his wife Ruth was home alone.
There was so much smoke that I really had no idea what was going on outside of my own little sphere. But I could hear trees crashing and some explosions and things, so I knew there was something going on, but didn't really know how bad it was until after. The fact that the shed was totally gone and that all these trees are like this, I mean, yeah, I had no idea it was as widespread and as bad as this.
We had sheds out the back that went up, tanks burned out, almost lost the house in a couple of different spots. I thought I was safe, but you just can't stop something like that coming, it's impossible.
As bad as it gets, that is the stark warning this morning from the Rural Fire Service as New South Wales braces itself for a potentially catastrophic day.
With fires burning across New South Wales, this isolated community didn't think much help was on its way, so they took their recovery into their own hands.
Hi Michaela, this is Hayley calling from Ewingar. How are you going? Good. Michaela, I'm after some sponsorship. We're having a music festival. It's how our community is trying to recover. Did you hear about it?
In an ambitious plan, they decided to stage a music festival to be held in the black and ashen landscape. The promotion for the festival had an unexpected outcome.
People started coming from nowhere, and we just started getting contacted from all these different groups on Facebook, and one of them was the bushfires. They'd raised all this money and they landed and brought us lunch, and we had this truck full of feed for animals and water and all sorts of things.
Thank you, everybody. This is absolutely fantastic.
And then we had the Governor-General turn up in Black Hawk helicopters, which was a real hoot. That actually made us feel like, wow, somebody cares about us.
At the moment it's cleaner.
And a lot of people started coming forward and really helping us and letting us know what's available, and they just kept coming. And even though it was overwhelming for us at the time because we were just so emotional about the loss, and to then have to go and talk to people about it and find out, it was just too much in some ways, but they were so consistently there. And they just kept coming back and coming back and coming back, and that felt amazing.
All this exposure led to a number of large grants to fund the festival. Combined with the generosity of sponsors and 24 bands, this tiny community realised their vision.
We created this 3-day festival that just blew all of our minds, I think.
All up, this community raised a massive $75,000, but that presented a new challenge. Who gets the money? Former legal academic and Ewingar local, Hayley Katzen, took on the role of facilitator at a public meeting.
What surprised me most was how complex and tricky charitable giving really is. When a donor gives, their intention is usually to give for people who've lost their homes, they've lost everything. But of course, what happens in a rural community is that it's often your infrastructure that's gone too. Because you've suddenly got no septic, you've got no sewage happening, you've got no power, you've got no water infrastructure. And a number of our community members were also not insured. So we started off thinking, okay, we're going to give 80% to people who have lost everything. And then gradually we shifted that percentage so that we actually gave 50% to the people who'd lost everything and 50% went to people who'd lost infrastructure.
Jeremy Hillman from the New South Wales Office of Emergency Management has watched communities struggle with getting charity right.
It is a bigger challenge often than people realise when they start up a donation drive, for example, and it can happen through websites like GoFundMe. Facebook allows that, and then there does become a challenge of how you distribute those funds fairly and make sure they get into the community. There is a fair bit of time and a fair bit of effort required to get that right, because of course if you end up giving donations to some and not to others, it can cause other challenges.
We, as a group who raised the money, decided that we didn't want to be the people who make the decisions and send the money out. And we wanted it to be completely above board, and we were advised to get a charity involved, and the Rotary kindly accepted, which was just, they were fantastic. So we decided on the criteria, and so they had set guidelines to go by, and then people would apply direct to them, so we didn't even know who was applying. They would make the decision.
I got $3,000, which bought a water tanker, and then bought a pump and stuff, so we had water back on, which we desperately needed because we had none.
I think we got around 2,500 and we decided to go for 2 containers rather than a 4-bay shed that burnt down. It really helped, honestly, it really helped. It's helped get us back on our feet.
At this stage I'm just setting up a room in my shed to make an office, getting some solar power on. With the help of the funds that my community here at Ewingar raised. So yes, it's taken 12 months, and it's hard to believe it's been 12 months, but for me it was like losing the love of my life. But I own a block of dirt, so it's my little shell that this crab crawls into now and again, you know.
Really learnt the power of people coming together for a common goal and using each other's strengths to create something. Yeah, we're definitely blown away by the power of that, and yeah, incredibly proud.
you.